Hey guys, Zomfox here, and today we have the biggest news that has been officially broken regarding the UFL really since the merger, and it's not really good news. Now, if you've seen the headlines, I apologize for this video being out a few hours late. If you didn't keep up my community posts, I was helping my sister out with some stuff. I didn't get to be able to record this till, literally I'm recording this at like 8:20, so hopefully this video's out by 8:45 or whatever. But it is official. 3 of the 8 teams are relocating ahead of the 2026 UFL season. Now, those 3 include the one everybody saw coming, the Memphis Showboats, the one people saw coming but hoped wouldn't happen, the Michigan Panthers, and the completely out of left field San Antonio Brahmas. The last one really was a shocker. I mean, seriously, out of nowhere. So, I'm not going to regurgitate a bunch of the talking points I've said about Michigan. I will briefly go over them for those of you that are new to the channel. I will briefly talk about them, but I've talked about like Michigan and Memphis like 8 times already. San Antonio, though, got a lot to talk about. Houston potentially going to a new stadium, and then obviously another potential relocation city has been announced. But let's get right into it with the official statement. Now, this is the full statement. It says that after thorough analysis of markets and venues, they've made the difficult decision to get rid of Memphis or move from Memphis, Michigan, San Antonio, Memphis. Sorry for saying that wrong, just a bit frazzled. Due to stadium constraints, the available venues in these areas do not align with our vision of focusing on smaller, more intimate settings that elevate the fan experience. That, we'll talk about it, is not really true. We are deeply grateful for the incredible support of the fans, blah, blah, as we look ahead to potential expansion in 2028, we remain hopeful the right venues will become available in these markets so we can return once again. Now, yes, they're once again talking about expansion in 2028, but they're once again using potential, not guaranteed expansion. That's not a good thing. And as I'll talk about a bit later, really only one of these 3 teams has a real shot of returning, I feel. So that whole thing about, any of them could, not really. Now, Mike Rapole ended up coming out with this tweet. For the leadership team, this has been a very difficult decision, but if the league wants to survive and thrive long term, tough choices have to be made and made quickly. And so this is what he says. Talks about the right venues and venue opportunities that arise, blah, blah, blah. This isn't really fully true. This is talking about the size of the venue, not just the finances, because from everything we understand, the Alamodome was more than willing to give the UFL all their games. Again, there was issues last year with the, Final Four, but they pretty much said they were going to get him, and apparently it's going to be a really, really good deal. Obviously, it's not happening now. Michigan, they could have gone to EMU. EMU is a smaller stadium, still not super small, but it's smaller. Could have waited for Alumnify, not doing it. Memphis, we all saw the writing on the wall for Memphis, okay? But this is not fully true, and this is where a big thing I'll talk about later on this video with the potential relocation city is a huge deal, because if that city ends up happening, it's not true. Now, there was a season ticket email that came out, and it also talked about the fact that, there's a potential expansion in 2028. So, this Mike T. Bell ended up sending this one, and so this is the email if you want to read it. You can pause the video and read it. But without further ado, let's get on to Shell Energy Stadium where the Roughnecks are moving. I want to talk about the more positive news before getting to the negative, potential controversy news, and more about the teams. So this is the report from James Larson saying the early word is that the UFL plans to move the Houston Roughnecks to Shell Energy Stadium, which seats about 22K. It seems like it's 20K. I think it's like extended seating is 22. This is actually a good thing, honestly. It says, as he points out, the fact they're moving away from San Antonio tells him that this deal is, definitely on the table and all that. And this is a good decision. If they do this is the right call. TDECU, they've got him back, but the bottom line is the attendance isn't good for it. If you're able to get even 10,000 people for a Roughnecks game in Shell, it's going to look a lot better than getting, 8K in TDECU. Now, Shell does have a lot of tenants right now. You've got Houston Dynamo, Texas Southern, and then Houston Dash and NWSL, but it's not like this is, super uncommon for the league to be in a stadium that multiple teams play in. This is a good thing if they do this. If this happens, it's a good call. It goes in line with Mike Rapole's vision of trying to keep these stadiums 25K and under, and these soccer-style stadiums that are much easier to manage, deal with, have teams playing, fans come in, all that jazz. This is a good thing. If this ends up happening, let me put it this way. There's 2 things that need to happen for me to at least buy this as being a good move long-term. This is one of them. And I mean both have to happen. If only one happens, I'm fully on the bandwagon that says this league's going to shut down after 2026. I hope that's not the case. Like I said, there's 2 big things from all these reports that if both happen, then this sadly is the right call to do this. This is one of the 2. You have to move to Shell Energy Stadium. to prove that you are really trying to go to smaller stadiums, with obvious exception to the Battlehawks, who are getting you $30K a game. If you move them here, that's one of the two steps in the right direction you have to have. The other one is Orlando. Now, this is where we're going to do a lot of the rest of the video. The whole rest of the video is going to be talking about this. Now, yes, this might be a bit of a cluster on screen. I apologize for that. The important things you know. Top left. James Larson developing. With confirmation the UFL is going away from San Antonio, it brings Orlando back to the mix. According to multiple sources, it looks like Orlando is more than likely the third expansion city. I think in the article by PFN that is linked in there, that it looks like they already have some sort of ticket stuff already being set up. And Orlando's one that, we talked about when that initial 4-team announcement came out, or report came out. That was one of the 4, and it's looking more and more likely. Now, the Orlando situation stadium-wise is the other one. There are 2 stadium options for the UFL. One of them is the correct place to go, and if you go there, I can buy this whole move, or this whole decision to move these 3 teams as somewhat justifiable. You don't need 3 teams in Texas. Everybody's complained about that for years. Yes, are the Brahmas a better team marketability-wise, fan-wise than the Renegades? Yes. But the Renegades are the hub. They're the ones getting the super sweetheart deal. Ain't no way they're moving them, even if objectively they're a weaker market than San Antonio. Houston, they're staying. As I've talked about before, the potential is insane. Houston is a mega market. They are, I believe it is legit, like 3rd after, obviously, New York and LA, if I'm not mistaken. Now, Orlando has 2 options. There's Camping World Stadium and Inter and Co Stadium. Camping World, from all the reports we understand, have 1 year for the UFL to play there for free. They had to pay up front the XFL in 2023, and obviously that means they still have that deal in place. They'd be able to go there for free. And then there's Inter and Co Stadium, which is a 25,000-seat stadium that is an MLS stadium. If you put whatever team they bring, if it is the Guardians, if they just, let's say, move the Showboats here or whatever, and you go to Inter and Co Stadium, and you go to Shell Energy Stadium, I reluctantly have to say I understand this. This is you really, really going in on, you have to be in an MLS or just a sub 30K seat stadium if you want to be in this league. If you do that, I hate to say it, but you honestly can't be that mad. If they both happen, that's the thing I got to make sure you all understand. If the league does both of these moves, puts a team in Orlando and in Inter and Co Stadium, and they move the Roughnecks to Shell Energy, if both those things happen, you cannot be that upset with the league doing what they're doing, because it's sticking to a plan and doing it. And this is the bigger reason. If you go to Camping World Stadium, it is almost guaranteed that this league folds after 2026. When you connect all the dots, original estimate is Alumni Field is done for 2027. Obviously not guaranteed, but the estimates are 2027. You get 1 free year of Camping World. You move the Panthers out of Michigan instead of keeping them there and spending the money to keep them there 1 more year. You bring a team to Orlando and put them in Camping World, which is a big stadium. You starting to see what I'm saying? If you do those things, it becomes very evident you are not planning to stick around for 2027. You may say you are, but you're clearly not actually planning to. However, if you put the team in Inter and Co Stadium and you move the Roughnecks to Shell, hell, really, you could argue just this one to move into Inter and Co, really, but I'd say both. If you do this one, you are putting it out there saying, we have a legitimate vision, which the UFL really has not had, period. They haven't had a vision, because apparently some reports say it was, ran by like one group and then the other group, and then now it's Repul. So if they do this, it is saying we have a vision, we have a goal, and my honest belief of a 2027 season improve drastically. You go to Camping World Stadium, down drastically. It's that simple. This is the make or break decision for the UFL. Not this relocation. This move, if you go to Orlando, this is the make or break decision. Do you go to Camping or do you go to Inter? If you go to Inter and Co, that is a very, 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 very good sign. You go to Camping World, I would say, even if your team moved, watch every game, enjoy it, because the odds are the league won't be around 2027. That's simple. You have a correct move and you have a wrong move. Now, with the Orlando, in terms of the actual market, this is not a great market to go back to sub. If you go back to Camping World Stadium, it's a terrible move, because Camping World Stadium was abysmal because of the sun. Inter and Co is a much better place for that, if I'm not mistaken, because it actually is top stuff. Can't really see it that well in the pictures, but try to get some. You can tell the top right is pretty easy to tell. there is some sort of shading there. There's literally none at Camping World. And as we saw last time, remember, the XFL played early. As I talked before, there is no reason to start early March or before that. You have to keep the start date because of TV competition. So if you go to Camping World Stadium and you're starting late March, I mean, look at the attendance numbers. Yes, the team sucked, but the attendance dropped pretty drastically. Went from 12,000 to 10,000, then sub 8K the rest of the season. Ended up averaging 8,900, which actually would be the third worst in the UFL today, which is really bad. And remember, for all these markets that move, because you're actually keeping Houston, you need them all to be over 10K with the exception of wherever Memphis moves. If Memphis moves and they get 8K, it's considered a huge success. But the Panthers more than likely are moving to Columbus. That's the right call because if you move them to Columbus, you immediately get people in Michigan pissed off about it to where if you do bring back the Panthers in 2028, you have an immediate rival. Granted, you're pulling a Cleveland Browns 2.0 for those who don't know. The Cleveland Browns like to act like Jim Brown is part of their history. He technically isn't. He's part of Ravens history. The Cleveland Browns originally basically were the Ravens, but instead of, doing that like normal, they just, gave Cleveland the Browns back and then called it the same even though it wasn't. So the Browns got an expansion team, kept their history, but the team sucked. So you put a team in Michigan in the future and you move the Panthers to Columbus, creates an immediate rivalry that is like not just Ohio, Michigan, but that on steroids. As for Michigan, Michigan was the only team that improved in attendance. In fact, they did it back-to-back years, only team to do that. They were top 3 in individuals watched. I believe they were 3rd in overall just TV rating. They had the 3rd best attendance. They were the 2nd best market behind St. Louis. So moving them is terrible unless, like I said, you're moving to all the MLS stadiums. If you get all 8 of your teams, minus the Stallions at Protective, minus the Battlehawks in the Dome, if your other 6 teams are all in MLS stadiums, or, Choctaw, obviously, right? You know what I'm saying. The non-big 3 stadiums, really, that are not MLS stadiums, if you have all those teams there in MLS stadiums, I can buy this move. I'll be pissed about it. I'll be pissed for Panthers fans like myself, but I can at least buy it for the league's survival. If you don't do it, it's pointless, and it shows that you are planning to fold this league sooner than later. Or basically what it really is you're going to put a team in Camping World, hope your TV ratings improve drastically, and your attendance doesn't. If it doesn't, you keep the league around. If not, you fold. That's what it comes down to, right? You go to Interco Stadium, you go to Shell Energy Stadium, really good signs. It shows that you have a vision and that you really are in it for the long haul. If you go to Camping World Stadium, it means you avoided paying Ford Field, you avoided even paying EMU, meaning you probably got a cheaper deal somewhere else, and that you go into Camping World because it's free. And if you're doing that, it's showing that you're really trying to cut back on money, which at this stage of the league, you cannot do. You need to show that you are actually trying to improve as a league, not get worse. And if you go to Camping World, you're getting worse. You are going to the worst stadium in the league. Remember that. Camping World, relative to where it is and when the league plays, even if they do the disastrous move and move the season earlier, it is still terrible because it sucked for the XFL. So even if you do that move, which like I said before, I made a whole video on, is a terrible move, you have to start the season late March or else your TV competition gets even worse than it already is. You start the season late March. That means every game in Camping World, minus the first one if it's at home for week 1, is April or beyond, outside direct sunlight. Yeah, you're not getting good attendance for that team, even if they go 10-0. However, you put them in Interco Stadium, you probably will. Like, legitimately, you will get just better attendance, not percentage. You will get more people to go to Interco than Camping World because it has shade, because it's a soccer stadium, because it fits the league better. So this is a big thing to note. If they go to Orlando, which do they do? If they do Camping World, it's a very, very dark sign for the league. If they go to Interco, it's great. Remember, if Mike Rapole wasn't BSing, on next Wednesday, the 8th of October, we will be getting the news on where these 3 teams are going, as well as where all the teams are playing, if that doesn't change. So if you want to be ready for that news, make sure you subscribe to this channel with the bell turned on so you get notified when I upload any videos. I'll have another video out, obviously on Monday or Tuesday, covering UFL players in the NFL. And then be on the lookout, again, barring something changes, next Wednesday for a video on the official team locations and hopefully names. We'll see. Again, in terms of this news, it's one that like I'm kind of a bit numb to because I've been waiting for this news to come out with the Panthers. Like, it's hard to be like as upset as possible because again, I'm posting this hours after the news came out. like, initially when I heard it, when I was helping my sister, I was like, I mean, I put out some tweets. You can go see them for yourselves. It was clear if I made the video then, it'd be a lot worse. And I'm still upset about it. But when I thought about it, it really comes down to where they put Orlando. If they do Orlando, where do they put the Guardians, if it's the Guardians? And do they put Houston in shell? If you put them both in MLS stadiums, I reluctantly have to agree with the UFL's decision from a pure survival aspect of a future survival. You put them in Camping World, there is no real future in my book, but we'll see. Overall, though, hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel, like it, and have a great night.